Ladies and gentlemen, today is March 10th, 2012. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 34. I am your host, Kienan Lafferty. Today we are going to be doing a tutorial on drawing lips. However, before we get into that, I wanted to take a moment of your time to thank all of you for coming out to the very first World of Warcraft dance party last Sunday. Yes, thank you very much for everyone who came out and showed their support and helped to make my nerd dream come true of throwing a party in the World of Warcraft whilst DJing on a Ustream server. So not only did this show that we can actually do live streaming, but that we can actually throw a party in whatever game we like. So for those of you who had a good time, post it down in the comments section. And let me know any other type of game where we could get like 40 plus people into it and yeah, have another party. So before we move into the tutorial, I'm going to be running through the usual stuff, like for instance the Facebook. I wanted to say thank you guys for not only posting your usual awesomeness to the Facebook, but for those of you who have been taking it upon yourselves to answer questions for people that have been, having troubles or like issues with their art and just needing feedback. So thank you guys all for taking it upon yourselves to help out your fellow artists in need when I do not have enough time between balancing work and the show and everything. And just know that it is noticed, and I do look at everything that does get Just know that I do look at everything that gets posted on the Facebook, and I love you guys. Moving on to the YouTube. Yes, I believe that our celebration in WoW could not have come at a better time because, as you can see, we passed the 100,000 video view mark on the YouTube page. So thank you all for supporting that. Be sure to subscribe and tell your friends about it if you dig it. The Twitter. Thank you all for everybody who has been following me. Again, if you want to follow, and I can let you know when I am filming and when you can expect the new episodes to be going live. And lastly, the DeviantArt. Yeah, as you can see, I got a journal thing up here basically advertising the show. I think that was all I wanted to say about that. So, without further ado, let us move into our tutorial on drawing these luscious lips, shall we? Yes, let's. Alright, so as you can see, I've got our KNKL mannequins all set up and we are ready to go. So let us begin this tutorial. First thing we are going to learn is drawing the face from face on, obviously. So the first thing you're going to want to do is know the general idea of where the lips go. And this is one thing that I can never really perfectly say to measure. In fact, if you remember in an older episode we were talking about faces, a lot of these books will say, okay, the eyes are like this, right? And then a perfect other eye across is where the other eye goes, right? And then another eye down and a half is where the nose goes, and then like 3/4 of an eye down is where the lips. I try to stay away from doing that kind of stuff because, like I said, not everybody has the same face and same structure. So the way I like to look at it is, if the mouth is a little bit lower or whatever, it's gonna add to the character of whatever you're drawing. So I would say experiment with a few different nose and mouth placements on the face and see what works for you. I personally, what I like to do is after I draw in the eyes like this, I'll kind of just draw a triangle down. And that's kind of where I want my nose to be. You can even see it on my face here. From the edges of my eyes down to my nose, there's that triangle. So I just go, okay, there's the nose. Then you think of the little divot that's underneath the nose, like the teardrop shape. And that is actually going to be the top of the lip. And just below that will be the actual opening for the mouth. So those are just some helpful hints in terms of placing stuff. And yeah, hopefully it can help you out. But that is not why we are here. Today we are going to be focusing on the lips. So let us do that. And I'm going to teach you a very, very easy and cool kind of comic book style of rendering lips. and basically the way that I like to lay out all of my lips when I'm drawing. So once you've got the placement of the nose and everything figured out, you can move into the lips. Okay, so the easiest way for me to lay this out is I like to think of the top lip as just a thick line. So what I do is I draw on the line, right? Say we'll do a couple different mouths actually. I'll do like a straight mouth, and then we'll do a happy mouth and maybe a sad mouth or whatever. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is take from the center point, go up and then down, like that, right? Create that little triangle right there, right? Up, then down. Okay, in fact, let's go a little closer. Up, down, up, and down. Okay? So there you go, you got that. Now, for the bottom lip, all I do is I just draw in, not the full lip like this. Try to stay away from doing that because, I don't know, it looks better when you draw in just like this shadow right here that's actually happening beneath the lip. I just draw that in. And then later on I will actually use coloring to show where the pigment is. Or sometimes if I need to, what I'll do is I will lightly shade in the pigment like this. Like that. I won't draw a line around it. Try to stay away from doing that because it looks too harsh and it will read as, you know, kind of funky. But if I need to, if I want to have especially darker lips, I will draw in just like a shade for the pigment. And then kind of gradate it on the sides too, to kind of soften that as well. And then you'll see a lot of comic books that actually do this. They'll put the shine right there on the lip. And I like to do that too. So a big thing that you're going to want to remember here is how the lips kind of work. It's almost like an M shape. Like from the edge of the mouth, it goes up, then down, then up, and back down. And you can see that M shape right there, right? And that's a big thing that I really like to accentuate with my lips. In fact, you could almost take that shape and throw that little shading underneath it, and look at that. Like, it's already created a set of lips. And they're very comic booky and cool, characterized, and you can turn the ends up. That's really all it is. A lot of the character and expression actually happens like right on the outside. Like what's happening here determines, you know, the expression. And you can also push them in a little bit further to create sort of like more like those dainty, kind of cute puckered lips, like the pictures, like the girls on Facebook. They always do those little pucker lips pictures. I hate those. Don't do those, girls. I'm tired of seeing that. Tired of seeing that. I don't want to see it. Unless you're posting them on my Facebook. But anyway, that's another conversation for another time. So yeah, you can feel free to try not to make this just like a straight line across. Whoops. Try whatever you do to not make this a straight line across, because you'll lose a lot of opportunity to show character there. And really try to go up and down and up, and really try to push that M shape. Like that, see? And then from there, you can curl the ends. You can make them have kind of like a little smirk thing. And this is actually the dimple that I'm drawing there, like a little tiny kind of a, I forget the word, indentation, suggestion of a dimple. And you don't have to make them even either. Like you can make one end kind of go up a little bit more, so it's more like a smirk. And I like to do that. Kind of makes your characters look a little more mischievous, or like they're thinking something. And then also, I don't know if this really ties into the lips, but a big thing when I'm drawing like the nose and beginning to shade is always remember the cast shadow that the nose puts down on the face. And that will help a lot with basically showing like the space of the nose. But I always try to kick it off to the side, remember, because if you push it straight down, it'll look kind of like a Hitler stash, and you don't want that. So yeah, whenever I compose my light, I always try to kick off the nose. Cast shadow to the side. So that is the beginnings of the face-on lips. Now we'll move into profile. So basically I'm going to be using the same proportions and lip placement as this one. So we're going to be going straight across because as you see here, I've actually drawn these heads in the same proportions. So you draw straight across and they're, oh, well that chin kind of comes down a little bit longer. There, now they're perfectly in proportion. And I'll be just kind of drawing straight over so you can see how it translates from a mugshot to a profile. So we've got the lip line, which is going to be placed right around there. And the nose, the bottom of the nose is placed right. Yep, okay. Cool, just double checking. Okay, so when you're drawing the face, you come down to your nose, right? And again, a lot of the shape that you draw here is going to determine a lot about your character. So don't get caught up in trying to do it exactly the same way each time. Try different little variations and see what they do. So you're going to come down, right? And this is not the face. This is merely that guideline. If you recall in another episode, I did this with my hand, and I kind of pushed it to the side, and you can feel the line that goes from your chin to your nose. And for me, my bottom lip actually touches my hand, but for other people it doesn't, probably because I got a big fat lip on the bottom. So again, it's all about the character. So you know that your lip line is going to be here, right? And then the line is here, so draw that there. And it's going to look like making a fish face, and I'll tell you how to avoid doing that, or avoid making it just stay like that, obviously. Going down like that into the chin. So again, you draw that line up and look at how this shape, it's all about this shape right here. Almost if you were to cut this out and shade that in, you know? That is the shape you're going for right there. So pay attention to that. Now the way that you take it away from being a kissy face or a fish face is all you have to do is draw in your line. Like this. Say you wanted him to be smiling, right? And just do that, right? And now what you've done is you've connected this, and you're showing the expression that the lips are making. And again, throwing that shadow underneath. And you can also, you can do that too. See, it's kind of the same thing. It's that thicker line that's implying the top lip. Oh, and also, when you're shading the lips, one thing that's interesting is that the pigment is not the shape of the actual lip. Like, to put it plainly, like when you're shading this later, you don't want to take this as the edge of the lip and then shade like that. What's actually happening is you have the pigment of the lip, right? Which is here. But the folds of the skin actually go further down. So when you shade, there will actually be light being caught like right here and right here. And actually that's not the best way to show it, but it's a little bit too harsh. Let's actually make that shadow a little bit. Let's make it a little bit more subtle. There we go. So it'll actually create a shape like this. And that is actually the chin right there. That's the chin catching that light. So be aware of that. Try not to draw the lip and then perfectly shade it against the pigment as if that's where the crease happens or the plane change occurs. Because the lip actually continues all the way up to here. And then the pigment is there. I hope that makes sense. That was something I always used to run into. I used to think that the pigment was the exact shape of the lip, and then after that I had to shade, you know, darker underneath it. But if you do that, it'll help to show a little bit more of like the actual fold of skin that's underneath the pigment. Again, I'll show you here. So say this is going up. See how the pigment goes there, but the fold of the skin actually is more gradated and more subtle underneath it. And you can put a little shine there. And these are fairly ambiguous models. I was hoping to make them sort of unisex, so that way it's not a guy or a girl. But when you're doing guys' lips, I think the best thing to do is, usually when I do guys' lips, apart from girls' lips, is the biggest difference is I eliminate a lot of this upper shadow here. I'll take away a lot of this. That'll make it appear more masculine, and take away. Also, I'll take away the shiny pigment thing going on. As soon as you get rid of that, it'll appear more masculine, less pigment and girly. But you can still keep that M shape in there. I'd highly recommend keeping that. Moving on to the 3/4 view. Okay, so this is where things begin to get tricky. But fear not, I'm here to help you and hold your hand as we cross this yellow brick road. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, like I said in our 3/4 tutorial, you're going to draw the center point up, right? Nose is going to be coming out like this, right? It's going to be way out here. Or something like that, right? It's okay, the nose isn't important. We're not focusing on that today. But we are focusing on, in fact, let me erase a little bit of that. We are focusing on the lips. And the important thing to do, the most important thing to do when you draw the lips down here is not draw them as a straight line like this. Do that. And do that. Do not do that. That is what I see people do sometimes, and you do not want to do that. It's actually, you're not far off, though, by doing that. The only thing you have to do is take that line that we did here and stretch it around. You're basically going to be taking it and pasting it kind of along like this egg shape that's occurring here, right? So think of this M shape. Just draw on that M shape. So the point of the M is going to be hitting the intersection line right there, right? M shape down like that, smiling, right, like that. See, now it is curving. It's curving along this equator that is on the face. It's the best way I could describe it. Okay, so you got that M shape, right? Now, what you want to do is think of this lip because it has volume. It comes out. It doesn't just stick on the edge of the face like that. There's volume. This lip is actually coming off of here, and it's going to create a shadow down here, right? The pigment is going to go like that, right? Let's make these girly lips, since we can make them fuller and more exaggerated. There's your shine there. The chin would be catching the light there. And then the most important thing to do is when you're drawing from this angle, think of it this way. In fact, let me make myself bigger for this. I have big, luscious lips, so I can demonstrate this properly. Okay, so look, when I turn my head like this model here, right? You'll notice, okay, straight on, they're very even, right? Like that. When I turn my head down, notice how this pigment, it gets larger, right? Because you're seeing more volume of it. And this pigment is turned away from you, so it's actually thinner. So that's what I want you to focus on. And vice versa, as in the next face that we're going to go into, when I turn my head up like this, notice how this pigment is now small and this pigment is big, but we'll go into that more in just a second. So depending on which way the face is turned in space, it will make one pigment look bigger than the other. So in this case, this pigment is going to be thin, the top one, and the bottom pigment is going to be large and in charge. So there you go. And you can see how it is bending around the shape. It is following the lines, and it is showing, again, look, like if I were to draw lines across this, it would be doing that. And that's something you should always be able to do when you're drawing your lips. Just think about the planes and think about the volume that it's taking up. And the space. Think of how it sits in the time and space. Okay, so moving on to the next one. In this case here, and I've actually done this in the highly acclaimed Redeemed Ribbon. As you can see, her lips are obeying this law of time and space. Because her face is turned up, you can see that the top pigment is larger than the bottom pigment, and I'm going to reinforce that and show you why. So again, the egg shape. The lines across the face are going this way, right? The eyes are going to be here. Eyes here, right? Going down the nose, we'll do this thing. This is actually a very hard angle to render the nose. I'll have to devote an entire show to going over that. But yeah, it was very tough. But the lips. Basically draw the line that your lips are going to exist on, right? So that is going to be here, obviously. I'll get rid of these guidelines on the side. So the M shape still does exist here, but it will just be more, just less apparent. But you can still draw it in. So we go up, down, right? And then, because we are looking up at it, I want you to exaggerate it even more. Push it up like that, way up like that. And then you can choose to shade it in like that, right? So now look at that. It's basically flip-flopped. That used to be the big pigment. Now this is the big pigment. And then what you're going to do for the bottom pigment is this. You're going to draw it like this, straight across like that, and then up. Because look, it's not gonna go down like that. It's gonna come down a little bit, and then it's gonna go back up because it's still following the laws of this face, and the face and the ellipses are turned up that way. There we go. Using proper terminology. Using proper terminology. So now you can see that this lip is kicked up. Put a shine there, like that. And again, remember, if you want to add expression to it, all you have to do is change these outer edges. It can be as simple as just doing this and that. Now she's gone from a serious face to a happy face. Even though these lines are primarily going down this way, it looks like she has whiskers or a mustache. Even though primarily these lines are going down like that. Looks so funny. Because we know that we're looking at a face that's turned up like this, and then it's pushed up to the side, we know our brain interprets that as it's smiling. Interesting. Interesting, is it not? So yes. And then again, you're going to be throwing in the shading, but do not follow this for your shading. Remember, comes down, right? Shade accordingly. Do not follow that pigment line for your shading on the lips. And even the space between here, like this skin that's catching light, even the space between that can affect what type of character and facial structure that you have. So trust me, there's a lot of room for exploration, and I encourage you guys to play around with your own proportions, find cool faces, create. It's almost like you get to create your own people. Because one thing that I do not like to see among artists is people who develop this, they develop like this attractive face for girls, and they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to use that one every time. And then what happens is they run into what I have dubbed the Barbie girl head syndrome, or Barbie girl syndrome, where all of the heads placed on their girls, they all look the same, it's just they have different clothes. So do not develop the Barbie head syndrome, and you will live long and prosper. So I think that concludes about everything that I wanted to say about lips. Oh, and the other cool thing is once you lay down features, it's really easy, especially when you work with like a simplified version of this. You can actually go in and just lasso stuff, and you can hit Control-T to transform it. You can actually just change the size. You can make them like massive lips, or you can make them a little smaller. And that is the magic of Photoshop. And I highly recommend using all the tools that you have at your command to your advantage. So I hope that sheds some light as to how I compose lips in a more simplified manner. And I believe that will wrap up the tutorial and the KNKL Show episode 34. So, the question of the week is, now that we've figured out how to do Ustreaming and live streaming, and now that we've tested it in our World of Warcraft dance party, I want to know how many of you went there, had a good time, planned on going, or would do it again, most importantly. And also, if we were to do live streaming type stuff, what time of day would be best for you? And we'll see if we can get something set up. I think that would be really fun. If anything, we could do like a cool little QA session. You guys could ask me questions, and then yeah, well, we could figure something out. So yeah, I want to see that down in the comments. With that, well, wrap it up. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. I'm Keenan Lafferty, and I will see you guys next week.